The gold turned back into feces the moment he tried to spend it. 1 second, the shopkeeper held a glittering coin in his hand. The next, he was screaming, wiping his fingers in disgust as villagers stared. What the man had carried in his pouch for weeks, proudly calling it his fortune, was now a rotting lump of dung wrapped in paper. And he wasn't the first to be fooled like this. In Japanese mythology, when something you touched, saw, or even loved turns out to be a complete lie, when your senses betray you so perfectly, you begin to question reality itself. There's a name for what's behind it. Bake-danuki, tricksters, shapeshifters, and according to my 7th scroll, they're still out there. Unlike kitsune, who manipulate humans with seduction or riddles, bake-danuki take pleasure in absurdity. They don't just lie, they make you believe you've always been wrong. They sell fake gold, fake food, fake gods. They turn leaves into treasure, wind into music, and themselves into anything they like, not illusions. Real experiences, with weight, smell, sound, until the moment they decide the trick is over. Their powers are so specific and bizarre that in some towns, people still leave rice offerings just in case a tanuki is watching. Because not all of them are cruel. Some bring luck. Others bring madness. But all of them love the game. Statues of tanuki line the storefronts of modern Japan, smiling with fat bellies and oversized testicles, symbols of prosperity and strange charm. Most people walk past them. Others swear they've seen one blink, or shift, or vanish. The old families in rural prefectures say the same thing. You'll only notice the trick when it's too late, and the creature who played you is probably still laughing. But that wasn't even their weirdest trick. In Japanese mythology, the bake-danuki were born from a strange intersection between nature and superstition. The real tanuki, Nyctereutes procyonoides viverinus, is a wild animal native to Japan, resembling a mix between a fox and a raccoon with a dog-like gait. But while the animal itself was already curious looking, it was the behavior of these creatures that gave rise to something far more mysterious. They were elusive, active at night, often seen near shrines, graveyards, or the edges of farms. Their strange calls, sudden disappearances, and almost human-like eyes stirred fear and wonder in local communities, long before the written word captured them. Over time, people began attributing supernatural abilities to them, imagining that these animals weren't just shy forest dwellers, but powerful shapeshifters that could alter reality itself. By the Heian period, these beliefs were taking form in poetry and storytelling. Early scrolls recorded that some tanuki could drum on their bellies to summon rain or scare off travelers with ghostly sounds. These weren't tricks of the light. They were woven into spiritual rituals and festivals. In one village, tanuki were feared for luring men into the woods with songs that mimicked dead relatives. In another, they were praised for warning farmers of approaching floods by appearing as lanterns in the fog. Their role changed from place to place. In one town, they were honored as bringers of wealth. In the next, they were cursed as omens of insanity. During the Edo period, as printing and storytelling flourished, tanuki myths exploded in complexity. Artists depicted them with exaggerated features, giant bellies, huge testicles, grinning faces, while writers gave them personalities, lazy but clever, foolish but divine. They became characters in plays, tricksters in poems, and sometimes symbols of rebellion or satire. People saw in them a mirror of human flaws, greedy, deceptive, chaotic, but also charming and impossible to predict. They weren't demons or deities. They were something in between, a reflection of the unpredictable world. Some stories say that if you step into the woods on a full moon and hear laughter behind you, it's a tanuki about to test your sanity. Others claim that drunkards are especially vulnerable, as the tanuki enjoy turning sake into urine after the first sip. But then they started pretending to be gods, and people believed them. One of them posed as a monk. The moment the villagers bowed to the monk, he vanished into leaves. They had welcomed him into their shrine, fed him, donated coins, even confessed sins. His voice was soothing, his face serene. He preached for 3 days straight, asking nothing in return, until a young boy tugged at his robes and felt nothing but dry grass. In a gust of wind, the illusion fell apart. Where a holy man once stood was now a pile of twigs and a single Tanuki footprint pressed into the dirt. That was the work of a bake-danuki. Unlike kitsune, who often rely on charm and subtlety, bake-danuki are proud of their lies. Their magic bends sound, texture, weight, even smell. One story tells of a man who bought a bag of golden coins from a traveling merchant, only to later discover it was full of rocks coated in light-reflecting tree sap. In another tale, a lord built a summer house in the forest, fully furnished and surrounded by a koi pond. He spent the night marveling at the craftsmanship, only to wake up on the forest floor, naked and covered in mud. The entire house, the pond, the fish, the furniture, everything had been conjured by a tanuki as a prank. Their power lies not just in changing shape, but in creating false worlds. They can become statues, children, priests, horses, thunder, mist, or entire households. Some forms are perfect replications. Others are grotesque hybrids. One scroll describes a bake-danuki taking the shape of a human merchant, except with fur along the spine, webbed fingers, and eyes that blinked horizontally. Another was said to disguise itself as an old woman who never opened her mouth when speaking, because the voice came from somewhere inside her robe. Physically, in their true forms, bake-danuki have distended bellies they use like drums, long, bushy tails, and often exaggerated features like bulging eyes or sagging jowls. But their most iconic trait in folklore is their massive scrotum, depicted humorously in art, but tied symbolically to wealth, luck, and adaptability. The more absurd the form, the more delighted the tanuki seems to be. They thrive on nonsense, testing the boundaries of logic and patience. Some humans laugh when they discover the trick. Others scream. But not every human they trick gets away, because not every bake-danuki trick was meant as a joke. Some were warnings, some were punishments, and some were acts of twisted justice. In one story from an isolated mountain village, a wealthy rice merchant made a habit of cheating the poor, filling their sacks with damp grains, weighing them down to charge more. One night, a humble old man arrived, offering the merchant a small black stone. He claimed it could multiply rice if kept in the storage room. The merchant, greedy and superstitious, took the stone eagerly. The next morning, he found the room overflowing, not with rice, but with thousands of frogs. They spilled into his home, croaking endlessly, refusing to leave. His entire estate was ruined in days. By the time the villagers came to help, the old man was gone, and all that remained in his place was a tanuki statue sitting where he had stood. In tales like this, the bake-danuki acts as a moral enforcer, exposing cruelty through chaos. But it's not always about justice. In many other stories, they seem to act with no purpose at all. No reward, no lesson, no target. They'll torment a fisherman for weeks, turning his boat into a rock the moment he steps aboard. They'll transform into a crying child at a crossroads, leading travelers in circles until sunrise. These tricks are neither cruel nor kind. They are games. And in that, they reflect something deeper in Japanese culture, a belief that reality is not fixed, and that even fools may hold truth. In traditional Japanese thought, illusions are not always deceptions. They can be tools, warnings, reflections of inner faults or unearned pride. A man who believes too easily is not just gullible, he is unbalanced. He lacks awareness, discipline, humility. The bake-danuki then becomes a mirror. It shows people what they're too afraid to see about themselves, sometimes through ridicule, sometimes through loss. sometimes through absurdity so precise it cuts deeper than violence. And perhaps that's why their presence never fully faded. Because even now, in remote towns and fading roads, some people claim to have met them. In the mountain town of Totori, a local farmer reported that his tools vanished every night and reappeared stacked perfectly outside the door by morning, sometimes balanced in impossible ways, like a hoe standing upright on a broom handle. He set up cameras. They recorded nothing, no animals, no wind, no movement. Yet every morning, the tools were moved again. The villagers didn't panic. They didn't call the police. Instead, they brought sake and rice cakes and left them outside with a polite bow. The disturbances stopped. In dozens of rural regions across Japan, similar stories circulate, tales of laughter in empty forests, footsteps on rooftops with no one there, or objects turning into leaves when touched by sunlight. Many older locals don't blame ghosts. They say it's Tanuki, not animals, the other kind, the ones that never left. And while the younger generations might laugh, these same villages keep statues of Tanuki at their doors. Always the same posture, big belly, straw hat, sake bottle in one hand, a promissory note in the other, and enormous testicles resting near their feet. These statues are everywhere across Japan, from noodle shops to shrines to convenience stores. To outsiders, the design may seem ridiculous, even crude. But to those who know the deeper symbolism, every detail matters. The hat represents protection. The bottle is generosity. The note symbolizes trust. The belly is confidence. And the oversized testicles, far from being vulgar, stand for financial fortune, adaptability, and the ability to expand beyond limitations. It's a blend of humor, prosperity, and mischief baked into cultural memory. And yet most people who walk past these statues have no idea what they're looking at. In modern media, bake-danuki appear in films like Studio Ghibli's Pom Poko, in manga, in children's books, and video games. But in those adaptations, their chaotic nature is often sanitized, turned into quirky animals, comic relief, or background lore. Few portray their full power, the mind-bending shapeshifting, the moral ambiguity, the dangerous joy they take in fooling humans. That part has faded from the spotlight, but it never disappeared. Because if you visit the deep forests of Shikoku, or walk alone through misty paths in Gunma, you might still hear the drumbeat of a belly echoing through the trees. You might catch a flicker of movement in a stone statue's eye. You might feel your wallet heavier than usual. Open it and find it full of dry leaves. So before you spend that cash in your wallet, check if it still looks like money in the daylight.